Raider Nation, what's going on? It's Mitchell Renz here, host of the Raiders Report, and the show that we're doing here today is going to be Raiders free agent targets after the Geno Smith trade. Had a lot of people asking me if by going out and getting Smith, what the Raiders could potentially do now in NFL free agency, which is the objective here of today's show. I also want to give a huge shout out to the over 60,000 people that tuned into our live coverage last night, over 5 to 6 hours worth of it. Man, from Nathan Wolf to Jerry Danley, a bunch of freaking Joshua Garcia, a bunch of OGs out there showing nothing but love, and I greatly appreciate it. Also, I'm probably going to be making a lot of videos from my home today and tomorrow because the entire Chat Sports team is off due to NFL free agency and due to me keeping a bunch of people at work late last night. So hopefully you guys can bear with me a little bit. So what I wanted to talk about today is kind of what, the Raiders stand right now at salary cap. Talk about the trade a little bit more for Geno Smith, and then I'm going to go through some players on the offensive side of the football, focusing on wide receiver, running back, tight end, and offensive line, that if I was sitting in the room with John Spytek, Pete Carroll, Tom Brady, and, now Geno Smith, these would be the players that I would look at to potentially add in NFL free agency. For those that do not know, man, we are a diehard Raiders channel here, and we pump out a lot of content. Also, if you want videos from me, from my house, and I'm telling you, I'm going to be pumping out a lot of videos today and tomorrow, hit that subscribe button. I'm going to be here. I'm not going to have all the graphics like I usually do with Chat Sports, which I hope you understand, but it's because we're getting ready to go live probably 30-plus hours next week for free agency. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. If you enjoyed our coverage of Geno Smith yesterday, I think you're going to have a hell of a time with us during NFL free agency. So let's talk about the trade. The Raiders obviously got Geno Smith for pick number 73. It's essentially you traded Davante Adams for Geno Smith, and I know that there's some people that aren't crazy about this idea. The way that I'm going to look at it and the way that I'll continue to look at it is the move by Geno Smith is the Raiders trying to win in the future, but also they're going to try to put out a team that can compete in the playoffs and get to the playoffs in year one with Geno Smith. So that's my take on the trade. I don't hate the trade by any means. I don't love it. It depends what the Raiders do now in free agency, and it depends what the Raiders could potentially do in trades, draft. It's going to be a wild off season. What I do know, though, is the Raiders right now, as it stands, has $51 million in salary cap space, which is 15th in the NFL. But also when you look at a lot of the teams that are above the Raiders, they don't have nearly the amount of players that we technically already have on our roster, which right now we're at about 61 players. I'll admit I'm really only going to focus on the offensive side of the football in this video, but there's a lot of players on that defense that I would hope that the Raiders are also able to bring back. From a Robert Spillane to a Malcolm Kuntz to a Trevon Merrick, Nate Hobbs, Adam Butler, these are all players, Caleb Chasen, that I would hope that the Raiders can bring back. Obviously, we don't know if it's going to happen. So first, let's talk about the wide receiver position here, and I'm going to go through a bunch of names, and I'll tell you why I like each of one of them and why I like them with somebody like a Geno Smith. The first name is a little bit of a cheaper option, outside guy, can stretch the field, getting up there in age a little bit. It's Mike Williams, cheap option, got a Spytek value of 4.5, but one of the things that Geno's not afraid to do, and I think he's really good at, is kind of holding in that safety, hold him in enough, look away, and then he's able to hit somebody deep. That's what Mike Williams kind of gives you the ability to do. I also think that Geno did struggle a little bit in the red zone last season. I'm going to look for some bigger-bodied receivers that could help him out. Mike Williams got a connection with the Raiders wide receiver coach and Chris Beatty, where they were together for 3 years with the Los Angeles Chargers. Let's go to another receiver and kind of the same thought process, Mack Hollins. I know the Raiders now, by going out and getting Geno, they're going to use Chip Kelly. They're going to try to spread you out. But this is also going to be a team that wants to be balanced and run the football a lot. And Mack Hollins might be one of the best run blocker, FU type of receivers in the NFL. Great gunner, great special teams player, but is also a deep threat. And in all honesty, was somebody that Josh Allen really relied on at the end of last season, especially in the playoffs. Next guy I'm going to look at is Nick Westbrook, another receiver that's going to cost you less than $4 million. 9 touchdowns last season for the Titans. Another dude that is a really good blocker. Like Hollins and Westbrook, I would say, or if you're looking for a wide receiver for That's somebody that I would look at that you could just bring in and they could be a flipping blocker. And then maybe when you're also trying to stretch the field a little bit, you can get in Trey Tucker in the mix in there. Let's go to some receivers that are going to cost a little bit more money. One guy to keep in mind is Brandin Cooks. And actually, Brandin Cooks just had a report out on him that he said that he thought that the market for him was going to be pretty good. I think that he's probably going to be around this like $5, $6, $7 million range. But the reason why Cooks is going to be brought up here is y'all got to remember, Cooks played with Tom Brady back in 2017, and they had a really good connection. Also, Cooks has been able to show that he's been able to work and play with a bunch of different quarterbacks. He's been very blessed with the quarterbacks that he's been able to play with. I get it. But he's also been bounced around a little bit. Good hands, good route runner. Again, somebody that could be considered, that wide receiver 3 or your third target getter behind Jakobi Meyers, behind Brock Bowers. But then also, if you go out and you sign Cooks, you still got to add another receiver, and maybe the Raiders try to add another receiver then on day 2, maybe early on day 3. This is where I would say probably the most likely name that's going to be thrown out there on the free agent market is Tyler Lockett. And I mean, Tyler Lockett was with Pete Carroll from 2015 to 2023. He's played a lot of football also with Geno. And if the Raiders are trying to plan for the future, I think bringing in Lockett and having him be a little bit of a bridge wide receiver to somebody like Trey Tucker, I do think makes a lot of sense when you think of just the whole grand scheme of things for the Raiders and what they're planning to doing, where it helps you win right now, but it also helps you plan for the future. Lockett, I would say, is probably in that $6 to $7 million range. I'll also say this, if I sound a little bit weird, because I have been talking so much over the past 24 hours, I bit my tongue last night, and I can feel it once in a while when I talk. So if I sound already more weird than what I usually do, because that's probably the number one thing that I get made fun of is, why do you talk so weird? The mic makes me sound a lot different, and I try to bring a lot of energy, and when you talk with your diaphragm, you're going to talk a little bit different. Tyler Lockett, though, obviously is a name to keep in mind. Let's go to another name here. It's Keenan Allen. He's got a lot of ties as well to Chris Beatty, who was, again, the Raiders wide receiver coach. He was with them with the Chargers, followed him to Chicago in that trade. Also, Keenan grew up a diehard Raiders fan. One of the things that the Raiders are going to want, though, are sure-handed wide receivers. And Allen does have sure hands. He can also do a multitude of different things, especially in those intermediate routes. I'll admit, I still would want the Raiders to add a field stretcher because that's kind of the one thing that this team and organization is moving on from. But the accuracy that Geno has and his ability to work with people that are just really good route runners, I do think is important, which kind of brings me to my next point here. Chris Godwin. I think by them going out and getting a quarterback that just when you watch the tape on him, and I've watched a little bit of tape on him today, I'm going to continue to watch some tape on him throughout today, and I'll probably try to drop a video tomorrow sometime on what the film tells me. But Chris Godwin is one of the most sure-handed receivers in the NFL. In fact, he's got a drop rate of less than 6% in 7 of the last 8 seasons. Brock Bowers, sure-handed receiver. Jakobi Meyers, sure-handed receiver. But then also when you watch a lot of Geno's tape, he's one of the most accurate quarterbacks still in the NFL, and that is a cold, hard fact. He is one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the NFL. So by going out and getting him, yes, I want to see them add a field stretcher, but they're also going to want receivers that, because Geno's going to be accurate, that when the ball gets put on them, they're going to be able to catch the ball. Godwin is by far the most expensive out of all the names that I just mentioned. Probably going to be somewhere in that $20, $21, $22 million range on the open market, but he's somebody who won a Super Bowl with Tom Brady. He's been with John Spytek his entire career. It's going to cost you, to try to steal him away from Tampa Bay, but if you're trying to spend big and you're trying to help, because again, if the Raiders are poking around looking at DK Metcalf, and they are poking around looking at DK, that tells me that they're also not afraid to spend money at the wide receiver position. Hell, they might even try to add 2, because DK is going to cost you $27 to $30 million if you go out and you trade for him. You know what? I'm a man that likes to make deals, and again, y'all, I mean, the amount of people that showed out last night was one of the reasons why I think we've been able to build a really special community here at the Raiders Report. So here's the deal that I'm going to make. If this video gets 1,000 likes, I'll go live tonight here on the Raiders Report, answering questions, talking about all things Raiders, talking about all things free agency, trades that could potentially go down. I was going to have my buddies come over, and we were going to watch some UFC. I was going to have some people from Chat Sports over. We were going to have a night. But in all honesty, there's just too much going on right now around the Raiders, and my fiance Alex is out of town, so I don't really get as many opportunities Chuck and I are going to have a dude's day like we do, but if this video gets 1,000 likes, you guys will see me late tonight here on the show. And again, I'll just be here answering questions, super chats, like I always do. Let's go to the next position now. Let's talk about the running back position. And I think a lot of people are going to assume that I don't want the Raiders to go out and get a back. I kind of sat down this morning. I looked at a few different things. Again, I've watched probably only an hour and a half of Geno Smith tape. I'm going to try to watch close to 5 to 6 hours today. I'll turn on the all 22 and I'll try to break down as much stuff as I can. But I do think the Raiders, with somebody like Geno, a veteran, you probably are going to have to give him at least one other type of running back. And maybe you try to draft somebody, but you got Sincere McCormick. He's banged up right now. Dylan Laube, I don't know if he's going to make the teams. And Zamir White, he stinks. So to me, like, you lost Ameer Abdullah, you lost Alexander Madison. You need to be able to add another running back. And none of the running backs that I'm going to mention are guys that I want to break the bank on. But at the same time, you need to have some of that extra running back depth because this is going to be a team that runs the ball. And my only fear is if you don't add anybody and you're just relying on 2 rookies, that's not always the best recipe for success when you go out and you trade for a veteran quarterback. So the first name I'm going to bring up is this. If the Raiders do want to spend big on the open market, the running back that I would spend big on with Geno Smith is Aaron Jones. And even that, like, I think Aaron Jones last year played on a 1-year prove-it deal for $7 million. I bet you, honestly, that's probably what it would cost again here if the Raiders wanted to go out and get him. Maybe it's near that $8-9 million mark. Again, I don't love the idea, but I'm bringing that up because I've seen a lot of people talk about Najee Harris. I don't want Najee Harris. If you're going to tell me which running back I'm going to spend big on, I'd rather you spend big on Aaron Jones or Najee Harris. And then still, if you go out and you add Jones, that then gives you the ability to add a running back in the later rounds, you know, in the round 4, round 5, round 6 range, hell, round 7 range. And with how deep this running back class is, I don't mind that idea at all. Because if what I don't want to happen, if you don't add a running back, you might force the Raiders to draft one really early. And after losing that 3rd round pick and, you know, after some of the other things that the Raiders might do, I'm worried that investing in that running back spot too early in the draft, you might put a little bit too much pressure on a young man. But then again, if you told me right now we just stack that freaking offensive line, I'm okay with the Raiders drafting a running back a little bit earlier on. So let's go now to some names that if I was the Raiders, I would be a little bit more intrigued about. Let's talk about some pass catchers. If I'm looking for a pass-catching running back that's cheap, less than $3 million a year, I'm either going to bring back Ameer Abdullah, who is definitely up there in age. We know that this offense is going to be spread you out, but they're also going to be an offense that's going to need people that can catch the football. And I would say Ameer Abdullah and Kenneth Gainwell would be the 2 best fits for what I've seen the Seahawks do with some of their different running back mixtures in a sense. And again, cheap overall running back. Here, though, are the 3 names that if I was the Raiders that I'm kind of leaning in this direction. Not expensive at all, and then the Raiders could draft a running back between rounds 1 to round 7. I don't care. And these next names here would be a good complementary back. First name I'm going to bring up is Javonte Williams, and I say that because he had 52 catches last season, the most out of any running back on the open market. He is only 25 years old, and one of the things that I will just pound the table on for importance with Geno at age 34 is I need a running back that can pass protect. Because if there's one thing that does scare me, drafting a rookie, and I want the Raiders to draft a rookie running back, which they're going to do, not many rookie running backs are good pass protectors right away. And that's something that's going to be really critical for getting on the field. And it's just going to be one of those learning curves. So to me, these next 3 backs are all guys that can pass protect, and they can do it really well. Javonte last season was the 6th best running back in the NFL in terms of his pass block rate, according to Pro Football Focus. And again, that's somebody that's going to be 3, maybe not even like million, $3-4 million, but he's somebody that can catch the football, AFC West experience, can run between the tackles at least a little bit. Not great, but can run between the tackles a little bit. But because he can pass protect, that's why I'm interested in that option. Another person here is J.K. Dobbins, who, honestly, man, he had a hell of a season last year for the Chargers, and he was also the 4th best pass blocking running back in the NFL, according to PFF last season. So, like, the fact that he can pass protect, yes, he does have a lot of injury concerns, but he also has those Ohio State ties. And if it was up to me, the more and more things that I hear, I think the Raiders are going to try to target a Trevion Henderson. They're going to try to target somebody like a Quinshon Judkins, maybe on with that other third-round pick that they still have. But because of those Ohio State ties with Chip Kelly, J.K. Dobbins, if he could stay healthy, I mean, he's the name that I would go with on this list. The biggest concern on around Dobbins is he able to stay healthy? The last name here is Rico Dowdle, who was the starting running back for the Cowboys last year, had over 1,000 yards of total offense, also the 9th highest pass block rate. That might be a little bit more rich overall, but these are the type of running backs that Pete Carroll has used in years past, and also the type of running backs that, John Spytek has implemented down there in Tampa Bay. So wanted to look at all those options. So how about this? I want you guys to name one player you want the Raiders to sign after the trade for Geno Smith. This is going to be the number one comment that I want you to answer to. I know it's a little bit later in the video, but when I'm at home, I like these more laid-back style of shows, so hopefully that's okay with y'all. But please name one player that you want the Raiders to sign after the trade for Geno Smith. Let's now go to tight ends, and I'm going to fly through these. I know the Raiders have Brock Bowers. I want them to be able to keep Michael Mayer. We'll see what ends up happening there. But I do think the idea of going out and adding a third tight end that is a good blocker and a good all-around tight end that also gives you some presence in the red zone will be important for this team. So the names I'm going to throw out are Mo Alley-Cox, Austin Hooper, and Harrison Bryant. To me, those would be the 3 tight ends that I would try to bring in if you have Brock Bowers and if you still have Michael Mayer on your roster. Those are my top 3 tight ends. But if there's anything that I've learned from the short amount of time that I've watched Geno Smith tape, the importance of an offensive line cannot be understated. Where I know the Raiders already went out and got Alex Kappa. It does make me nervous that they view him as their starting right guard. And I know that they're moving on from Andre James. A trade around James could still happen. If you're like, how's that possible? Check out the video that I did yesterday, which honestly kind of got lost in the mix of all the craziness around the Geno Smith trade, but there is still a chance that the Raiders could trade away Andre James. But to me, the importance of an offensive line, it's just, I can't stress it enough. It's going to help the running game, but it's also, when Geno isn't pressured, he's clearly better. But then obviously also on top of that, when he has time to throw and time to really scan the field, you can just see how intelligent and how much of a good decision maker Geno is. I'll admit he's made some bad decisions on some of the tape I watched. Like some of the interceptions are like, what the hell is he thinking? But then also he had a few unlucky ones from the tape that I watched early on. But being able to have that offensive line that gives him the time to be able to, bait the safeties. They're going to do a lot of run options, which that's important to have a good offensive line can block. A lot of play action's going to come, a lot of spread, a lot of shotgun. You're going to do a lot of different things. But the importance of an offensive line, I cannot undersell enough, because I think Geno was one of the QBs that the O-line is even more important now for the Raiders. So here are 3 offensive linemen that I would look at. The number one guy that I would want is Mekhi Becton. And I know Becton played right guard last year for the Eagles, and Kappa is going to stay at right guard. I mean, he just is. That's where he's played even back in his time with Spytek in Tampa Bay. And JPJ is going to be your center. I would imagine Dylan Parham is going to be your left guard. And then, right now the biggest question marks for me, though, are still right guard. I'm not sold on Kappa, which is not anything new. I know the Raiders brought back Jordan Meredith. The Raiders are a lot more confident in their offensive line than I think what people realize. But at the same time, I want this FU offensive line, and I think Mekhi Becton, the max I'd be willing to pay him is probably $15 million. I would like him more around that $10 to $11 million range with an incentive-based contract. But if he wanted to make 15, I would give him incentives, because that's going to be really important to keep him in shape. He did play right guard, but he's played left tackle. He's played right tackle. To me, he is a guard, and if the Raiders went out and they got him, honestly, man, I would consider putting him at left guard, and I would still just consider leaving Dylan Parham there at right guard, and then you allow Kappa to just be this depth piece on the offensive line. Based on the way that they gave him his contract, though, I think that they believe that he can still start at right guard. Let's go to another player. A lot of injury concerns. It's around Tevin Jenkins, and I can remember talking about Jenkins a lot a few years ago because I wanted the Raiders to draft him, and instead they went with Alex Leatherwood. But, again, what the hell do I know? I also wanted Christian Darrisaw, but what the hell do I know, right? Played left guard last season, 738 snaps for Chicago. and really good, 75.4 overall grade, good run blocker, good pass blocker. I think he's built a little bit more to be a better run blocker, but it's the injury concerns with Jenkins. He's somebody where, again, if you're the Raiders and you are confident and Kappa can be your number 6, I like the idea of going out and getting Jenkins. You slap him in there to left guard. You keep Dylan Parham at right guard. And then if, God forbid, Jenkins gets hurt, you know that Parham can move over. You know that you have Jordan Meredith. And then you know you have somebody that you got in Alex Kappa. To me, I looked at some tackles because I know they like DJ Glaze. But to me, in all honesty, if the Raiders go out and they add a tackle, it's probably going to be in the draft. Now, there is one name that I would consider. And again, it's not going to break the bank. It's Morgan Moses. And I know Moses is coming off a little bit of a down year from his standard, 63.3 overall PFF grade. But the Jets last year, again, were a little bit of a dumpster fire. The year before that, he was a 77.6. Year before that, 78.1. Year before that, 71.0. Year before that, 80.6 PFF grade. Yeah, Father Time is undefeated, and he's 34 years old. But if you wanted to be able to go out and get a right tackle option that I do think is an upgrade over DJ Glaze right now and right now only, that's going to cost you less than $6 to $7 million. Morgan Moses would be a name that I would keep in mind. All right, y'all, those are all the free agent targets that I put together this morning. And now the time that I'm making the video, I get it's a little bit in the afternoon. But on the West Coast, I think it's still in the morning. So I'm going to run through these names one more time. At wide receiver, it's Mike Williams, Mack Hollins, Nick Westbrook, Brandin Cooks, Tyler Lockett, Keenan Allen, Chris Godwin. Running back, Aaron Jones, Javonte Williams, J.K. Dobbins, Rico Dowdle, Kenneth Gainwell, Ameer Abdullah. At tight end, Mo Alley Cox, Austin Hooper, Harrison Bryant. And then on the offensive line, Mekhi Becton, Tevin Jenkins, and Morgan Moses. Those would be the free agents that if I was the Raiders, I would target after the Geno Smith trade. You can still look at a lot of pieces on defense, but I figured because Geno's a quarterback, I would really only focus on the offensive side of the football. Other videos that I'm going to be making here at home, whether it's going to be today, I might, 1,000 likes, hold me in my word, I will go live tonight. And then some other videos that I'll probably be dropping tomorrow to just keep an eye out for. And again, just more videos that I might even end up doing today, right? I'm kind of just chilling here, and I have so many different thoughts in my mind around Geno, and I'm just like, shit, man, I might just keep on making some videos. Another video that I'd love to be able to do is a Raiders mock draft after the Geno Smith trade, and then also I will do a show based on some things that I saw from Geno Smith and just some overall film breakdown, which I want to be able to do. Now, I can't show the film on here because to me it's just too much of a risk that a YouTube channel can get shut down. I know a lot of other channels do it, but I don't know how many of those other channels rely on this to be their ability to, put food on the table. This is my full-time job, so I don't want to risk anything. And sometimes when you put film on a YouTube video, you have the risk of your entire YouTube channel being shut down. So I'm not going to show that, but I will go through just some of the notes that I get on Geno after watching some of the film throughout the weekend. That'll probably be a video that I drop late tomorrow night, but just keep an eye out, and I'm just letting you know all the videos that I filmed this weekend, unless there is like if the Raiders go trade for DK Metcalf, I'm going to go into the studio, I'll have a producer, I'll have everyone, but because literally nobody works today at Chat Sports, and because our staff tomorrow is super, super thin, just in preparation, getting ready for NFL free agency, I knew that if I wanted to make these videos, I'd have to do it from home. So hopefully all of y'all understand that. All right, y'all, I'm getting ready to get out of here. Still can't believe the trade ended up going down. Again, appreciate everybody that showed out and showed love late last night. I want to give shout-outs to Nathan Wolf, Jerry Danley, Dave Giotti, Jason Garcia, Kilo Cuz, LCA, Cass Joey, Thunderlord Frazier, OC Raider, Nathan and Lexi Matthews, Common Raider, Cameron Sproul, Dave Rubio, Corbs, Josh I, Venthrak, Fly Guy 75, Ty Bones Davis, Chase Coe, George Rodriguez, Blaine Craig, Savannah Jean, Jonathan Smith. All of those people banged last night on the Raiders Report. And I'm telling you, when breaking news happens, there is one place to be and one place only. It is here on the Raiders Report. And this next week, man, next week, starting from now to next Saturday, is going to be, I think, some of the craziest shit that we've ever seen this Raiders team pull off, and I can't wait to be able to break it all down with the entire nation. For more videos here around the Raiders, make sure you're subscribed to the Raiders Report right here. I promise you, I got you covered. If you want even more content, you can see the Geno Smith trade here, or you could probably even see a breakdown of Andre James or the breaking news live show that we did late last night, which again had over 60,000 people on it. More videos, but you definitely got to make sure you're subscribed by clicking this button right here.